We've all had busy weeks, but perhaps none other than Attorney General Josh Stein. He's had major lawsuits related to vaping and opioids, and just yesterday a new law aimed to help reduce the backlog of sexual assault kits and more. Vaping, though, in particular, has been in the spotlight nationwide. 8 deaths now and calls for suspending e-cigarettes and vaping products. So joining us to help explain it all, none other than Attorney General Josh Stein and Alona Jasper is a vaping researcher from the UNC School of Medicine. Good to see you both. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for having us.
Important topic, very much so. First, tell us about this lawsuit. It's Juul, right?
Yeah, well, I sued Juul in May. Juul is the 800-pound gorilla. And if you go to any high school in North Carolina and you walk the halls, you go into the bathroom, kids are going to be using their product. They are inhaling a chemical aerosol deep into their lungs that is laced with nicotine. Nicotine is one of the most addictive substances out the market, and it restructures the kids' brains to make them susceptible to all other forms of addiction. Last week, I sued 8 other e-cig manufacturers that have outrageous advertisements targeted to kids. They're designing, marketing, and selling these products to attract young people. It's unconscionable. In North Carolina, it's illegal.
All right, so what do we know about this, right? There's some 500 lung-related illnesses and now 8 deaths. What do we know about what this is that these kids and adults are putting into their bodies and the impact?
So the diseases that have now been popping up all over the news, there's actually now, I think, a term that's called vaping-associated acute lung injury, or VALI, I think some people are causing it now, so they're calling it out, so there's a name for it. And it's the sort of clinical manifestations are a little bit diverse, so they're sort of presenting themselves with sort of pneumonia-like features, but that's where it sort of ends with a commonality, so they have different features all along. What's causing it, we still don't know. There are people now who think that some of the contaminants in some of the sort of THC-related vaping products may cause this. Vitamin E has been sort of linked to some of them, but not all of them. So we know that some of these contaminants may be causing it, but again, it doesn't really justify or just doesn't really describe all of the features we're seeing here. So to be quite honest, we don't know exactly what's causing it.
And it can take a long time to figure this out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking weeks here.
No. And one of the things, too, so while this is now an outbreak, clearly an outbreak with 530 cases that the CDC has collected, 8 deaths, as you said, clearly an outbreak, but I'm concerned that people are now focusing on this and not realizing that maybe some of this has been around for a little bit longer since June or July. If you carefully read the literature, some of these cases have been reported in 2018, 2017. So while this is now an outbreak, what we're seeing now has probably been seen before by some physicians, but they haven't really connected the dots.
And this has to do with people dying, which is horrendous.
Unacceptable.
But there are tens of thousands of teenagers addicted to nicotine, which can lead to a whole host of long-term health consequences. They're 4 or 5 times more likely to smoke cigarettes. They're more likely to become addicted to cocaine, to opioids, to heroin, to methamphetamine. It can take a child's life into a downward spiral. A young man named Luca from High Point, he wanted to be cool in 9th grade, so he started juuling. He became addicted. He dropped out of Boy Scouts, kicked off the cross-country team, grades turned from A's to F's, had to go to long-term residential recovery. The idea that people are taking this product and ending up in long-term residential recovery is outrageous.
So how far should we go with this then? New York has banned the flavored ones. Walmart today is stopping them. How far should the government go in trying to stop this?
Well, I'm not trying to ban the products, because I believe that adults who want to make that choice should be able to make the choice. But we need to keep them out of the hands of children. And if you ask kids, why are they doing this? 86% say because of the flavors. We're talking creme brulee, mango, mint, menthol. These are flavors that kids like. And it's not irritating on the throat. They've purposefully created the chemical structure to make it easy on virgin throats to ingest this stuff. And so we got to get rid of the flavors. We got to get it out of stores. But in terms of adults, they should be able to continue to buy the tobacco-flavored stuff.
So we all grew up, smoking was the popular one, and it has long-term effects. What is the major difference here? Is it these chemicals that are in this that's making the difference between cigarettes and e-cigarettes?
So one thing that you pointed out right now is exactly it. So Juul was designed to actually make the nicotine inhalation a lot more tolerable. One thing that I always say, a cigarette has about 1.2 to 1.8 weight by volume percentage of nicotine. It's a defined product. You light a cigarette, it's start to finish, about 10 to 12 puffs. That is your smoking session. Juul contains 5% nicotine, and now there's knockoff products from Juul that actually contain up to 8% nicotine. That is so much higher than what a cigarette does. The other thing is, when you think about vaping, there's no defined start and end to a vaping session. Juul contains up to, I think it's 2 packs of cigarettes, the equivalent of 2 packs of cigarettes in 1 Juul. So it's basically, once kids start Juuling, the start and finish to the product is basically vaping the same amount of nicotine as 2 packs of cigarettes. And Juul is actually on the lower end. There's other products where you have more like 4 to 5 packs of cigarettes in 1 pod. So the defined sort of session that you have from start to finish, you basically have the exposure of the equivalent exposure of 4 to 5 packs of cigarettes in terms of nicotine.
And they do it all day.
That's right.
They will do it when they wake up. They do it in the car. They do it at school. They do it when their teachers' backs are turned. Bathrooms in high school are called vape rooms. They're not bathrooms.
Vape lounges with bathrooms, with toilets.
So this is, it's 24/7. Cigarettes, as bad as they are, you had to take a break at some point during the day.
Right.
You
Plus,
knew when it was over because it was the end of the cigarette.
Plus, now we have a lot of restrictions as to where you can smoke. So you can't smoke in buildings anymore. You can't smoke in restaurants anymore. At UNC in the School of Medicine on the campus, you can't smoke within 100 yards of a building, in some of the parking lots of UNC healthcare buildings. So smoking, where you can smoke, is very, very restricted. You can basically vape everywhere. So now there's being restrictions put on. I'm really I talked to some of the folks in the School of Medicine yesterday. I think I got vaping restrictions put in at UNC at the same way we have cigarette restrictions.
I know your job isn't public policy, that's his job in some ways, but do you think it should be banned for the time being until we know more about this?
That's an interesting idea, because we're currently right now, what we're doing is we're running an experiment on our children, and that's sort of somewhat unacceptable in the public health perspective. Because without sort of completely banning all of this, the kids will continue to vape, the kids will continue to get sick, the kids will continue to die. We again have the 8th person that just died yesterday. So should we basically treat this like a public health emergency and basically pull all of it off the market until we know more? That's an interesting hypothesis.
Are you encouraged by companies like Walmart making these decisions, and can the private sector help that along? And are you at all encouraged with how Juul and these other e-cigarette manufacturers are responding?
Until we deal with the fundamental issue, which is the flavors that appeal to kids, we're going to have a crisis. From 2 years ago to last year, the percentage of kids that vaped within the last 30 days went from 13 to 20%. From last year to this year, it went from 20 to 27%. At the height of teen smoking, it was at 27%. And we drove that number all the way down to 5. One of the greatest public health victories we'd achieved. In 4 years, all those gains have been completely evaporated because these kids are addicted to the product and they're attracted to these flavors. We've got to get the flavors off the market.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Thank you so much. Very fascinating and scary.